All right, tubers. Matt M. Roy back once again, and this is going to be a different type of video. I'm doing this live from my local Toys R Us. Yes, the Toys R Us here is closing, just as many of the other ones are in our nation. But that's not really what this video is about. This is something that's been on my heart for a very long time, and I think it's really come time for me to give you guys my take on the obesity epidemic in Western society. I was going to say the United States, but this really works for all Western societies. So the US, Canada, even Europe, I would say, Western Europe. So we're talking like the England, France, the British Isles. Um, you guys have known for a while now that my journey has taken me pretty much on a roller coaster my whole life. I have struggled with weight since I was about 10 years old. Now, that being said, a lot of this was my personal fault. I can put blame elsewhere with my parents, with my friends, and all that. But at the end of the day, I was the one that was putting this junk inside of my body for all these years. And, it started to take its toll. That's why I've went on this fitness journey, and man, has it been one great journey. I've lost over 150 pounds from my highest weight, which was over 400 pounds. Yes, I was, for a very short time, maybe about 10 years ago, over 400 pounds. So, what am I going to say that you guys probably have not heard in the past? Well, maybe not too much, but maybe you haven't heard it all condensed into a semi short space. I'm going to start with why I think we've gotten to this point. Let's start back at my parents' generation, which were the baby boomers. Back in the mid 40s, when World War II was ending, all the troops are coming home. And what did they want to do? Well, they wanted to start a family with their spouses. And that's why we had the baby boomers, which are from around 1942 to like 1962. I may not be exactly right on that, but it's close. Um, when they got home, I mean, we had a huge amount of prosperity here in this country. We had the factories opening up again because they weren't supplying parts for the war. We had a lot of innovation. That's when the suburban houses started to boom. People moved away from the cities into suburbia, and they started to have what we would consider a typical suburban life. And at that time, the husbands went out and worked for the most part, and the wives stayed at home. When the wives stayed at home, they were able to actually cook the meals. A lot of times they would cook breakfast. Breakfast in the morning would consist of a good hearty meal, usually a meat, sausage, ham, eggs, hash browns, maybe some biscuits. It was a rich, filling meal, but again, it was home cooked. Lunch, they would pack a lunch for their kids, they'd pack a lunch for their husband, the husband would eat it at work, and then after work they would come home and the wife would have dinner on the table. Now that worked out till maybe the 70s to the early 80s. Late 70s, early 80s started having some issues. We start with the gas crisis, which made people have to spend a lot more money on gas for traveling. And generally, the economy went on the downturn. That was the first time you saw it almost being a necessity to have two incomes. In other words, the spouse, the wife that was usually at home cooking meals for her husband and her kids, now had to go out and work. This kind of posed a problem in the sense that there was usually not time to make a home cooked meal, because the wife would be going out in the morning just like the husband would, working an 8-hour job. They would both be getting home at the same time. Well, what are you going to do? For the most part, you're not going to be running at home at 5 p.m., going and doing the shopping, cooking a meal, because by the time you'd have it on the table, it would be 8 p.m. And let's face it, who wants to eat dinner at 8 p.m.? So what started happening in our society at that point we started eating out a lot more. Fast food, McDonald's, Burger King, KFC started becoming more of the norm. And that was out of necessity, really, because again, what were these people going to do? I mean, they're working all hour 8 hour shifts. They're not going to be able to come home and cook those meals. So that was kind of the start of what the modern day problem is, the start to the modern day obesity problem, because fast foods are high in fat, high in calories, high in sugar. And that immediately is going to start increasing your body mass index. So this was in the 1980s, and this has really spilled over into the 90s, the early 2000s, and even into today, because let's face it, in this day and age, it's the same thing. Both people are having to go out and work, and there just isn't a lot of time to make a home cooked meal. Now, that's number one. That's not the whole story. Number two is society in general. And I'm talking about the ideas and I don't know if I want to use this word, but I'm going to say dalliances of people. Back again in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and even into the early to mid 70s, we were a society that was willing to wait. In other words, I'll give you a good example here. Back then, and this is going by what my parents told me because this was their generation, eating out was a treat. They used to go out maybe once a month, twice a month if there was like some special occasions like a birthday or anniversary like that. And it would always be to a fancy restaurant. They get up in their best Viv and Tucker, which basically means they dress up nicely, go out and have a good meal, and then they'd be satisfied for a while. But in our society now, that's not good enough, because we want it now side. We're the now generation, basically. So we wake up in the morning, we're in the mood for a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit from McDonald's. Instead of thinking, do I really need that? Do I really want to put that kind of garbage in my body on a daily basis? We don't do that for the most part anymore. We say, no, I want that now. So what do? We go out now and get it. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the fast food restaurants haven't helped the situation, because if you look at the prices, they've actually gone down, because so many people are eating this fast food, putting this junk into their body. The fast food companies are making profits hand over fist, that they can afford to actually sell this food at a deeper discount. I mean, I can't believe it. The other day I was looking at an ad for Bojangles, which is one of our local fast food chains here that usually serves fried chicken. It's kind of like a KFC, but they have a breakfast option, and they're offering two sausage, egg, and cheese biscuits for $3. I mean, that's incredibly cheap. And generally that's cheaper than what you can do at home. That's actually cheaper than the food you can make yourself at home. So that's really number two. It just amazes me that, these fast food chains, and now they're trying to make a profit. I mean, you can't totally blame them, but they're actually helping the downfall of society when it comes to our obesity. And here's number three: sheer willpower. I don't know what it is. I'm not an expert on this, but for whatever reason, we seem to have lost the good old willpower. My parents' generation, their parents' generation had incredible willpower. They were able to recover from a horrible war that really lasted longer than it should have. And I'm talking about World War II. There are so many things there that I could get into, but what I'm trying to get you guys to take away from that is they had the willpower to come back from that, make lives for themselves here, and make good lives. And they were all able to maintain a good weight. That's because they knew when to just say no. And that's what we really need to learn to do as a society. We need to just say no. You see these ads on TV all night long. I kid you not. The other night I was actually watching a network channel. I think it was ABC. Yeah, I was watching, you guys know what I was watching. But anyway, I could not believe there were no less than three fast food ads on there. There was one for Arby's for their new Euros, and I'm not even going to go there with the name on that one. There was a KFC commercial and then a Taco Bell commercial for their new big box, which is cheap but is like a 3,000 calorie box. I mean, that's like your entire calories for the day. So what I want you guys to take away from this more than anything is we need to fundamentally change the way we think about food here in America. I think it's something that can be done. I think that the best way to do it is through people like us, YouTube videos, people like me that are willing to speak the truth and say, hey, look, I've been down the road that you guys have been. I've been that morbidly obese person that thought they would never in a million years be able to reverse a lifetime of, let's face it, bad choices. But at the end of the day, I was able to do it. And if you follow my channel, go ahead and look at some of those videos in the past, because I've given you guys a good guide on how to actually start living your lives in a more healthy way. Again, I am not a nutritionist. Don't take everything I say with a grain of salt, please, and do your own research, because not everything that I've done is going to work for you in the end of the day. But I definitely give you guys a good baseline on how to start with changing your diets and reversing the effects of obesity, because I know a lot of you guys out there, a lot of my subscribers are in the same boat I am. Maybe not as bad as I was. I mean, I wish I got to show you guys some pictures that I found the other day, and it's really shocking. It really was. I could not believe when I was pushing 400 pounds how I looked. And there was something that I heard on TV the other day. It was that show, My 600-Pound Life, and they were saying is you have to get fed up. You have to get sick enough of your face in the mirror, your body in the mirror, to actually want to change. And that kind of is what happened to me. One day I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, you know what? This is not me. There is a skinny person inside of me wanting to break out. And I think a lot of people are in that same boat. They're like, look, I'm fed up with this. I'm tired of being heavy. It's no fun being heavy. You can't do a lot of stuff. You're tired all the time. Pretty much all you can do is sit on the couch and watch TV. And unfortunately, that's the other thing. So what are we up to? Number 4 now. That's the number 4 thing that's a problem with our society. We are a bunch of couch potatoes. I'm going to say it. Couch potatoes. When it comes to entertainment these days, we have the gamut. We have everything out there. We have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have Amazon Prime Video, we have on demand from pretty much any one of those cable, satellite, Fios providers, what have you. We have Blu-ray players, we have DVD players, we have DVRs, we have computers, we have smart TVs. It's never ending. And yeah, in a sense, it's great because we have constant access to news. When something happens across the globe, yeah, that's great. I mean, we have access to all these different news outlets. But then again, that causes us to gain more weight, because instead of going out and enjoying time outside, we want to sit on our butts, our big fannies, and we want to just watch TV. And again, I'm going to go back to my parents' generation, the baby boomers. It was not uncommon when they were young, and even when I was young to a point, that we would go to school as kids, get off, and we would be outside until it got dark. Pretty much, say we went to school about 8 in the morning, got off at 3:30. I got home about 4 because I lived out in the boondocks when I lived in rural New York. So I got home around 4, and then I'd be outside playing with my friends, and probably stay out till it got dark, which, depending on the time of the year, would be between 6 and 7, 8 p.m. Now, granted, I would probably go in and have some dinner for about a half an hour, but then I'd go right back out and play again. Well, that's not our society anymore. I just have to go outside after school in our neighborhood and see how many kids are there. I might see one or two kids, and they're usually outside because they're walking their dogs. It's just very sad. Kids get off school now. What do? They go inside, they sit around, they play video games, and they get little to no exercise. And when you combine that little to no exercise with a high fat, high calorie, high sugar diet, it's a recipe for disaster. And I know it's funny. I watch all of these videos on YouTube about, diets and obesity and what their take on it is. They're trying to find some genetic reason as to why we're getting so heavy, like maybe something in the food, being that we're ingesting GMO food, something that's gone wrong in our genes. Has nothing to do with our genetics. It really doesn't. It has everything to do with the fact that we're a bunch of lazy, fat people now that just don't want to do anything anymore. And if I offend anybody by saying that, good, because I've taken the high road too long at this point. And this is something, again, I'm very passionate about, being there, being that person that felt like they couldn't do anything anymore, couldn't even, I was at a point where I couldn't even go out in the summer and go to the beach because I would get overheated just sitting on a blanket, laying in the sun because of all that extra weight that was around me. And I don't want to see anybody else like that. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where our society's got two choices. Either we do something about it, try to reverse what we've done, or we're going to have the first generation of people that, kids or people in general, that's not going to live longer than their parents. And that is honestly where we're going right now. And for you guys that are wondering why you can't comment, I turn comments off because even though this is technically a live video, it was more important to get this information out. And what I'll do is I'll try to answer comments in post production. But the best thing I could tell you guys to do is watch my previous vlogs where I've talked in depth about, what I've done in my lifestyle change. I call the diet for the benefit of those people that are just tuning in that may not watch my other videos. But what I'm doing in my personal life is what we're calling a lifestyle change. And that is exactly what you'd have to do to reverse the effects of a lifetime of overeating. A lifestyle change being, we're not just dieting, we're not just exercising, we're fundamentally looking at changing the way we think about food. And I say that because I'm doing this with my parents, mom more than dad, but even dad's getting to come on board with this because even he realizes that you can't continue going on eating that the way we used to eat. But I'm going to go ahead and end this. That's really all I had to say about this right now, but that is just my short take on the obesity epidemic here in America. And I'd like to do more in this series like this. As time provides, time allows, I'm definitely going to do more of these videos. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys got some really good information about this. Please continue to like and subscribe. Stay safe out there. Keep up exercising. And as always, have a blessed day, everybody.